Buenas noches, SHPE Familia. Welcome back to the latinXfactor Sharpen Your Professional Edge program. I'm Dr. Dora Renaud, Senior Director of Programs here at SHPE National. This is our second webinar in a financial literacy series to help our members get the basics to manage money, investments, and debt in an ever-changing economy. Tonight, our panelists are 3 early career professionals who graduated during the pandemic and had to learn how to make some tough financial decisions. Our first panelist is Miguel Arias, a recent civil engineering graduate from the University of Houston and currently studying mechanical engineering. He has been a part of SHPE UH Familia since 2016. Next, we have Morgan Chesnicka. She is a first-year professional that graduated from the University of South Florida with a degree in industrial engineering, and she currently works at Accenture. And last but not least, we have Richard Gonzalez, a first-year business and integration art analyst at Accenture. And he graduated from the University of Florida as an industrial engineer. And our moderator tonight will be William Gonzalez, a SHPE lifetime member and an industrial engineer who graduated from the University of South Florida as well. So happy to have you join us today, Miguel, Morgan, Richard, and William. Welcome back to the show. And without further ado, I'll pass over the mic to our moderator.
Hey everyone, so I'll be moderating today. And today we got a good Q&A to chat on, a good group of folks. Hopefully you guys have some questions ready for them. And the idea is, hey, these are young professionals, new grads that have just started really learning about finances and have just been given that income and now are trying to figure out how to manage it and where to invest it and what to do with it. And the idea was, if you're a young professional or if you're an undergraduate student, you're going to be able to chat with them, ask them questions, and pick their brains to brainstorm on what you could be doing. Maybe give them some ideas if you're a seasoned professional on what they could be doing, and allow them to have that discussion for the SHPE Familia to benefit from. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get them started by just introducing themselves to you guys. So I believe the first slide is Morgan's. Morgan, can
Hello,
you see the slide?
everyone. Yeah, I can see it. Yeah, thanks. Hello, everyone. Good evening. Thank you for being here. Thanks for coming out. Super happy to be here. So yeah, my name is Morgan Chesnicka. I went to school at the University of South Florida, just like William and Richard. I graduated in May of 2020. While I was at USF, I did 3 internships, one at Eaton Corporation in lean manufacturing. The other was at the Boeing Corporation, where I was a project management intern. And last, I was a data analyst intern at Wyndham Destinations, which is a hospitality company out of Orlando. So I got a lot of experience being at USF. That's where I joined SHPE in 2017, and that's how I got all my internships as well. So that was a great experience. And yeah, I graduated last May in 2020, so right in the middle of the pandemic. I currently work at Accenture as a consulting development, as an analyst in their consulting development program. I'm based in the Chicago office. And also right when I graduated from USF, I started working on my master's part-time at Georgia Tech in data analytics as well. So that's a little bit about me. I have some pictures here showing how much I love to travel. I'm sure I'm just like everyone that their favorite hobby is to travel. So there's a picture of me in London on a bike tour with my family. And then there's a picture with me and my friends in Zion. So yeah, and I just put a little picture here of money, and I'm going to quickly touch on some things that I've been navigating recently financially, and hopefully that'll inspire you guys to ask me some questions about that. So as William mentioned, I recently started my job. I just started in January. So this is the first time I've had a steady income for quite a while. The last time I had an income would have been from my internship in 2019. So I've kind of been stretching my finances for quite a while now. So I'm really happy to have an income and kind of navigate that space. I'm also really trying to build up my emergency budget. That's something that's been a big focus for me since I have started this job, because what I realized during the pandemic is that there are going to be times that you have those rainy days and need that extra cushion. I am also planning to move soon. So because I started remote, I did not start in Chicago. So within the next month, I will be moving to Chicago. I actually just signed a lease today. And yeah, that's going to be a huge expense. A lot of times apartments ask for, big security deposits, plus all the moving fees, etc. And as well as I pay for my master's out of pocket. So that is something that I have to, plan for and schedule for financially. It is not paid for by my company. So that is a huge financial burden for me right now that I'm also navigating. So that's a little bit about me. And like I said, I'm happy to be here.
Hey,
I'll go ahead and
Morgan,
pass
really
it on.
quick,
Who's ever
before you do pass it on, you had said that you started Accenture and you didn't start in Chicago, but wasn't there also like a delay in your start date? So when you're talking
Yes.
about that rainy day fund,
Yes.
it's like
Yeah,
unexpected,
sure.
right?
I can kind of, yeah, sure. So when I signed my offer with Accenture, it said I was going to start between like June and November. That was that time frame. And I think I asked for like July or August. But when I got my initial start date, it was going to be November. And then I got my start date pushed back. So I didn't start until January. So yeah, like I said, the last source of income I had was August of 2017 from, a steady income. And then I didn't start making a steady income again until over a year later. So January of 2021.
Got it. I just wanted to make that clear. All right,
Yeah.
cool. Thank you for the intro. We're going to go ahead and move next. And I believe Miguel is next. Perfect. Hey, Miguel,
Hello,
you there?
everyone. Thank you, William. Nice to have everybody here tonight. My name is Miguel Arias. I am part of the SHPE Houston Professional chapter. I'm currently a student affairs coordinator right now, and I am attending the University of Houston, in which I graduated with a civil engineering degree, and I'm now pursuing a mechanical engineering degree. So we'll start from the top on the photos. On the left, so that's the first time I went to a conference, and that's the first time I managed to learn what Familia was, and that was through SHPE. That's RLDC 2016 back in Houston. And then the next photo is my internship that I had with QIT. That was the first time that I had to learn how to manage money because I had to move outside of, living with my family. I had to learn how to manage money being outside now by myself. The next thing was the last position I had as part of SHPE UH was the vice president internal. So we managed to make a big impact in over 180 students. And you get to reflect upon how your impact as a student is impacting other students to, hopefully pursue that internship, that dream job, and so on. And the logos that I have next are another internship that I had, which was Harris County Engineering Department. And then I was a project engineer last year after I graduated for Rego Inc. But I found that job like really quick because the first week I was graduating, I lost my job due to the COVID pandemic. So at that moment, I had to, look for anything that's possible in order to grow as a professional. And also to help me out with my finances because I owe loans. So I had to make sure that I find that adequate job in order to make sure that I can pay off loans and then hopefully reach my other goal, which is, to become a mechanical engineer. The bottom photos, so as student affairs coordinator, I have created a couple of events. One of them was like SHPE Unidos, so basically talking about our cultures that we come from. I love to play soccer, so that's a photo of us playing soccer. We won our first soccer competition with SHPE UH, and so on. We keep playing soccer with SHPE UH members and members from SHPE Houston. And lastly, these two logos are what is to come. So this summer, I'm going to be an intern with John Deere. They'll be flying me out to Iowa in order to work on foundry engineering. And then next summer, I'll have something with GE Aviation in which I'll be working on commercial airplanes on their engines. So I'll be helping design them. And William?
So Miguel, you were a student, went to become a professional, lost your first job, and then you got a second job, correct?
Yes, that is correct. So when I was going to graduate that first week, I lost it due to COVID.
Okay, so you didn't have your first day. So how did it feel to then get into the workforce and say, hey, want to know what? I want to go back to do my bachelor's, because what I see a lot of young professionals immediately is, oh my gosh, I just finished. I never want to see another textbook again. I want to go work now. But it sounds like really quick you were like, I need to go back to school because I really want to become a mechanical engineer. So talk to us a little bit about that.
So the reason I wanted to pursue mechanical engineering was the inspiration to work on aviation and aerospace. So that's somewhere where I ended up towards my last year of being the civil engineer. That's something that I wanted to see myself in the industry, because as civil engineering, I wanted to work on a big construction engineering company like Turner, QIT, or Bechtel. But I already knew that, there was something else. There was more. There was I never managed to define my dream. And now that I managed to define the dream, Now you want to believe it and then achieve it. So that's why I'm back at school in order to achieve that dream that now I defined.
It sounds like you're willing to reinvest in yourself. I like to hear that. But okay, thanks for that intro. Richard is next, and I don't know if these slides are moving. Can you guys see the next slide?
Not yet. There we go.
There we go.
All right, guys. So last but not least, my name is Richard Gonzalez. I also went to the University of South Florida, where I studied industrial engineering. A lot of these pictures that I'm showing you right now are just pictures of the trips that I've taken. I like to ball out on a budget. That being said, the way I like to spend my money is I'm always thinking about, all right, if I spend a lot now, that means I'm going to have to work a lot harder to save later. So throughout my life, I make my purchases on like, okay, do I really necessarily need this or not? I've had the experience of living in multiple different areas. Throughout my internships, I lived in Arkansas, Nashville, Tennessee, and Lexington, Kentucky. So different variety of places. Even when I was in Tennessee, I was tempted to spend a ton of money just to be right on the strip, go listen to live music every weekend, but I convinced myself not to because that would just give me the opportunity to save that money and put it somewhere else in the future. That being said, I like to aggressively invest. Maybe I put my money into a stock and it just skyrockets, and then I don't have to worry about necessarily forcing myself to work 60 hours a week every week. But that's pretty much just a rough pitch of myself.
Sounds like you're either on vacation or you're working 60 hours a week.
Hey, I mean, work is work, but when you like to have fun, you just go all out.
Understood. Hey, Dora, do you mind putting up the first polling question just so we can get a feeling of who's in the audience?
Sure thing.
I don't know if this works.
Launching the poll. Audience, please respond to the poll. We have 20% that have participated. Come on, folks, real quick. All right, here we go. 40%, 50%, 60%, 75, and we're at 85, so we'll go ahead and close the poll. Share it here. So looks like we have a very strong balance here, but the majority are going to be 36% are 4+ year professionals. The rest of them are 21%, evened out with undergrad, graduate, and early career.
Understood. So my 4+ year professionals, if you guys could ask some good questions, I would appreciate that. Especially because we have, if I did my math right, that's 63% being either early professionals or still in school. So please ask some questions that'll get our panelists chatting on some topics that maybe they don't even have the answer to. Dora, anything else that you want to add before we go on to the next poll?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Keep this party going.
Perfect. Let's go ahead and jump into that next polling question. And that's going to be around how comfortable the audience feels with managing their finances.
In the poll.
%, very comfortable. I like that.
Only 6% have participated so far.
We could just end right now. But they already got it covered.
Come on, participants. We've got 13%. Hit that button. We're at 50%. Just a few more. All righty. And we'll close the polls at 75%.
Go ahead and
So,
share.
so 70% either feel somewhat comfortable or very comfortable about their finances, and then we have 30 on the other percent on the other end that don't feel very comfortable with managing their finances. Okay, that sounds good. And if you guys are, well, you guys can't chat with us, but you can send in questions. So please feel free to send in questions. I'm gonna go ahead and get this party started with a question. If you guys give me a second, I'm gonna look at my list of questions. And so I'm gonna go ahead and just put this question out there. And Morgan, if you want to go first, what does it feel like now to have a steady income? I think you were the one that hasn't had a steady income in over a year, and it's been 7 months since you graduated, or 8 months since it's been almost a year since you've graduated. So what's that feeling like now, and how are you managing your money?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it feels very good, much better than not having a steady income. But I mean, it is a big responsibility, I think, too. Like, there's definitely a lot of times that I think you start having a steady income and you have to take the time to kind of set up your finances and figure out your budget, and that can get delayed a lot. Like, I'm going to do that later, or that'll happen down the road, like you get busy, etc. So I think that having a steady income, it feels really good, but I am always constantly thinking about what I can do to make the most with my money. How can I invest it? How can I save it? You know, what's my budget going to look like? And I adjust that like so often, where obviously when I didn't have an income, I didn't have to adjust that too much because I kind of knew what money I had and until how long I had to make that last. But now since it's more steady, I think it does come with bigger responsibilities and kind of more reading and understanding what you can do with your money.
Okay, and based off of that, what would you give advice to either a young professional or undergraduate student, graduate student? And the reason I'm asking you specifically is because you had a period where it was, hey, you're not going to be working for a while. I know you couldn't plan for this. I couldn't plan for this as Accenture. So what would you recommend these students and young professionals?
So based off that experience of just having, that delay happen, well, I would say two things. One, I really realized the importance of having, money that you just don't touch and it's really for emergencies. Because for me, I mean, I had some extra money saved, but I definitely didn't have enough. So, I thought I was going to be starting my job in August and I didn't start until January. So that was a long 5 months where I didn't have a source of income. I did work like a part-time job at a brewery, because for me, I just wanted that extra cushion. I probably could have made it. Like I kind of, looked into my budget and was like, okay, I could start my job in January and be okay. But it would be tight, one, and I think I would just be worried myself. I really like having that cushion. So I did take an extra job, which helped a lot. But I think just realizing the importance of like something that's truly for emergencies that you can't plan for. So for example, I'm moving soon. That is not something that is an emergency. That is something that you can plan for and you know that that is coming. So that's not something I will take out of my emergency budget. But like when I got that email saying that I'm not going to start work until January, I think that would have been something that it would have been really nice to have an emergency budget set up for. And then the second thing I would say is really look into what your company offers, because I know for me at Accenture, they offer a lot of things of ways you can maximize your money. So, 401k is pretty standard, but they offer so many other things as well that you can kind of invest in that will help you maximize your money. And I think you kind of have to look for it. Accenture is pretty good at making us aware of it, but I wish at my other companies I looked into that more, because I bet I could have maximized my money more at my internships than I realized.
Understood. Thank you for sharing. And I'm going to ask the same question to Richard, and don't worry, Miguel, I'm going to get you later with another question. So Richard, what does it feel like to have that high engineering income now and have it steady for the first time?
Believe it or not, I feel like it hasn't changed my life too much, just because I like to live below the means of my income. Actually, because of the pandemic and everything that is going on right now, I'm living at home, because I was like, you know what, like, why would I spend money paying rent when I have to be surrounded by four walls the whole day? So that's a nice, convenient aspect of it, but that steady income, like, it feels nice to get your paycheck every couple weeks, but it also, like Morgan said, it's in the back of your mind. You're like, all right, what am I supposed to do with this money? How am I supposed to handle it? And I like to break it down in like simpler means. I know some people like to do multiple buckets, but in my head, I divide it into thirds. So you should be spending 33% max on rent, 33% max on like investments, and then 33% on pretty much anything else that you want in relation to food, gas, like anything that you desire. And in all those aspects, when you look at housing and stuff that you want, I actually spend less than that 33%, and then I take that chunk and I invest it into the stock market personally. Because as I mentioned, I'm very aggressive with those investments. I'm like, let me do it now so that hopefully it pays off later on.
And I'm going to use this to segue into Miguel. But Richard and Morgan, do either of you have student loans, or were you able to graduate without any student debt? So you have that freedom to kind of put the money and not worry about the student debt.
I'll let you go first, Richard.
So I was fortunate enough to graduate without student debt. So I don't have many expenses, so that's why most of my money is going into investing.
Yeah, I actually do have a student loan. It's very small though, so it's just something I kind of work into a monthly plan. But yeah, I do have one, but it's not too much. It's not a huge burden for me, but I do know a lot of people that have, a very big student loan, and I think it's worth it. I think college is worth it, even if it costs so much. But I know that that really does complicate how much you can save and how much you can spend, and just makes it really hard. It feels like you're always behind, I think, when you have a big student loan, because you have to make such a big payment each month towards that. So I know that that is something that a lot of people struggle with, but I would just say, that's something you're investing in yourself, and that's always worth it, even if it feels like you're so behind. You're definitely not.
Yeah, I definitely agree on as long as you're budgeting for it, which is a lot of what you guys are chatting about of, hey, I budget, this is what I do, this is what works for me, and you just consider your loans and what you owe, and you can make that budget and make it a line item. So Miguel, this is going to segue into you because one, you had that steady income, but now you don't. Before I ask you the second question, what does that feel like? So you had it, and then you said, no, I'm going to go back. Like, what was going on?
So when I was having that steady income, is in my back end of my mind, I was like, okay, I have loans that I have to pay. So that's one thing that 100% a percentage of my money has to go to, right? And another thing is like knowing what kind of benefits I get from the company. So like I know they pay for my, protective equipment that I need to wear. They give me a gas card because I have to drive the truck to go to projects. So that's a beneficial, right? So I don't have to worry about gas. I don't have to worry about, equipment. So it's just knowing, okay, so I got to pay off loans, that's a percentage, but then how much do I have to pay off for, food, and also if I'm going to go back to school, then I have to save up money for that as well. So it was just breaking it apart to that, and also knowing what kind of loans you have, because they're subsidized and they're unsubsidized. So some loans you already have interest, accumulating. So that's the ones that I focus on first, because if you go back to school, though the ones that are subsidized, I think some of the loans do not gain increments of money based on the percentage interest, but some of them still do, even if you're going to school. So I managed to pay off the ones that get interest. So then I don't have to worry about, accumulating interest on my loans. So if I could go back, so now that I'm back in school, I do have loans, but I have no interest, occurring at all, because I managed to take care of that before I even, left the workforce.
Understood. And now, so I got some questions coming in from the audience, but I wanted to ask you before I jump into that, specifically because I would consider your investment strategy almost the opposite of Richard's, because Richard, over here talking about the stock market and being very aggressive, and now you're saying, hey, I'm paying off my student loans and I'm going back into school. So in my mind, I'm seeing it as I'm investing more in my education, in my schooling, in myself. So is that how you see it? And like, do you see your overall type of investment strategy is, hey, I want to be, I'm going to call it conservative, and I want to be safe versus being ultra aggressive right now?
So yeah, mine was more on the safe way of knowing, how much money do I need as well to go to school, and how much money do I need to like pay off some of the loans that I need to take care of. So it was more of the safe way. Like right now, I already looked into like the internships on how they can help me pay off, the future semesters that I need left. then I don't have to worry about taking any loans while I'm at school and so on.
Got it. Okay. So before I bore the audience with my questions, I'm going to go ahead and jump into their questions. So Jacqueline asked, was it always easy to direct your money into investments where there might not be 100% certainty rather than leaving it in the savings and maybe more dependable? So would you, if you guys didn't know what you were going to get back from your investments, for example, I'm gonna send this straight to Richard. The stock market, you really don't know if it's going to go up or down, and currently the stock market is in the red. Like it's been bad for the last few weeks. So what does that feel like, Richard, that you are still putting money in, and would it have been better to just leave it in the bank in retrospective, now that you know that the stock market was down, right?
So I'm not a financial advisor, guys. So take everything I say with a grain of salt. Basically, the way I see it is the stock market is, yeah, it's going down. It's red every week after week. But honestly, unless it crashes, it's not going to go down much lower, and it fluctuates up and down. So even though it's down, as long as you hold out for a period of time, it's going to go back up. And at that point, when you are actually benefiting from it, you could sell your shares and get that gain from the difference that you bought those stocks in. Or if you like to do options, that's a whole another animal. But for me, it's one of those things that as long as you're patient and you have done your research and you've looked into a company and you're like, you know what, I think this is the next Apple. I think they're going to do well in the future. Even if it fluctuates, you just don't panic. You hold on to it. And I've learned about this in the past. There have been multiple times where, you're down $200 and you're like, man, like, why did I even make that decision? And you kind of just like beat yourself down. And then 2 seconds, you're like, you know what, it's going to keep on going down. You sell it. And then the next day, it just shoots up like 30%. So it is a risk, but like anything in life, you're going to have your pros and your cons.
Nice. So Morgan, I'm only going to keep it to 2 people per question. Morgan, what's your feeling on this? So
I'm the opposite of Richard. I definitely do not do such aggressive investments. And I definitely had that feeling like, it's risky. What if I lose my money? Like it's just safe in the bank. That was kind of like my philosophy going into like starting my finance journey. That's just kind of how I thought of things. I actually was lucky and like was able to meet with a financial advisor when I was pretty young. I think I was like 18, and I started reading about personal finance. And I kind of talked to her, and she explained to me, that there's some very risky investments, like just investing in one stock, that's maybe like a startup and hoping it goes really well. Or like Bitcoin or something, right? Where you put all your eggs kind of like in that basket, or I don't know. Richard rolled his eyes when I said that, but for me, it was more like I'm definitely more in something more steady. So like mutual funds or index funds. So I just kind of put my money in there. I set aside a certain amount, either a month or a year. Right now I do it yearly rather than monthly, but that I'm going to invest into a mutual fund or an index fund. And then I literally never check it. I literally just put it in and I don't look at it because I know that if it fluctuates, I'll start, getting kind of emotional about it. Like that's my money. I work so hard for that, etc. I get a little bit too tied to it. But I know that, on average, mutual funds can return like 12 to 15% a year, which why wouldn't you want to increase your money 12 to 15% a year? And the same with index funds. I think it's like 8 to 9% a year, that their average return. Obviously, some years that's less. It could be like 3%, 2%. Some years you can lose, but then some years it's going to go up. So for me, I just kind of put my money in and I really don't look at it. I check it quarterly because I get quarterly statements sent to my email. And that's just kind of how I control that risk factor. And I just, kind of trust the process that over time that is going to grow and, it's going to fluctuate, but it's still trending up. So that's kind of how I think about it. But I definitely don't make too aggressive of investments myself. And that's my comfort level.
So you are definitely the steady investor, and you're steadily investing for that retirement, right? Like that's the idea.
Yeah.
Maybe for that
right
big
now, yes.
long term.
Yeah, right now that's exactly, yes. And I will say a lot of my budget does go towards school. I do pay for my master's and I do have a student loan. So I'm also reinvesting in myself. So I kind of think about it, okay, this is getting put away for long term. Maybe in the future, I'll be able to have money to do more, aggressive investments. But for now, I'm focusing on long term and focusing on my education. And those are like two big chunks of my budget that immediately I put away every paycheck I get.
Understood. So I'm going to put this question out there and any of you can jump on it. The question is, what are some reliable resources that you use to learn about investing, or what is the way that you learned as a young professional to invest? Books, online resources, or anything else that you guys use? I don't know who wants to jump on that, but I'll leave it out there.
I use books, mainly books is what I did. I read some podcasts I listened to. And like I said, I met with a financial advisor and it was actually way cheaper than I thought it would. Typically, they don't ask for upfront fees. It's typically like they get a percentage of your investments. So if you want to invest money into a mutual fund or an index fund and you have that money saved, you can meet with someone, and typically they're so much more knowledgeable than I am about the process, and just was able to explain everything to me. And if you have a quick question, you can always email them and they kind of manage your money for you. And it's not at a big expense at all, in my opinion. I think it's totally worth it to just kind of let someone else that knows what they're doing handle it. So that was a big step for me to do that.
Yeah, go ahead, Miguel.
Okay. There is one book, and it'll be listed out later, but it's called Money Nerds. And it's about the host. She paid off $30,000 in 10 months. And then she interviews other people as well throughout the podcast about, how to manage your money. And the reason I bring up the 30K is because I'm the one who ended up, out of school with 30K. So then I was like, okay, then she can do it in 10 months. Hopefully I can do it, in 10 months or more, right? And then another thing you can watch is the latinXfactor Money Talks 101. And it's William's one of the people who hosted it with Eileen, and they talk about the romance of financial wellness. So that's something else that's helpful.
Just to add on,
go ahead, Richard.
Just to add on what Morgan and Miguel said, I like to use the morning brew. It's basically just a newsletter of everything that's going on in the stock market. Comes out at like 6 a.m. So if you're an early riser, you get up early, you take a look at it. Market opens up at 9:30 and you're good to go.
There you go. So we got a lot of different resources for podcasts, newsletters, talking to your peers, or workshops. So they're there, and what we want you guys to take away is absolutely go in, do some research, and read some books and do all of that stuff on your own. And then when you have questions, either come back to maybe a financial advisor that can help you. And as Morgan said, it's not that expensive. I've actually met with a financial advisor before. Usually they'll do the first consultation for free.
Yeah.
And some financial advisors will even give you advice for free and say, hey, honestly, your amount of money isn't that much. I'm going to give you the advice to get you started. And if you reach this amount, I'm happy to help. It all just depends on what their business model is and who they support. So there's some people that I've met with, they're like, yeah, my clients have to have 400K in the bank before I can help them. Most students don't have that coming out of school. Maybe a negative 400K, depending on the school, but not 400K. But anyways, we're going to go ahead and jump to the next question. Keep them coming. I'm going to give a big thank you to Maria. She's got like 4 in the queue. Let's see. So Maria makes a statement over here saying investments are different than trading. Do you agree? So I'm going to first throw this question to Richard, who seems to love the stock market more than anyone else here.
Well, yeah, investments would be different than trading. When I use the word investments, I automatically think in the stock market. You could invest into a home, like Miguel. You can also invest in yourself. It depends like what avenue you're gonna take. And if you wanted to run an Airbnb empire, that would also be an investment. So it depends how you're looking at it.
Understood. Morgan, how do you see it?
I mean, I think trading can be an investment. I think that there's a little bit of overlap, but yeah, I wouldn't say that those go hand in hand. Like Richard said, investment could be not just necessarily like investing in the stock market. I think there's many ways that you can invest in yourself to make more money, right? Like investing in your education, ultimately you can get a job that pays more, right? You can kind of negotiate that. You have a higher education that might help you get a job that pays more. So I think that yeah, investing I think is a broader term, but I think trading can fall under the investing umbrella. It is one way to invest.
Absolutely. Miguel, do you have any 2 cents on that before I move on to the next question?
For me, it'd be more on the investing. I know right now I'm trying to invest, in school, but another thing is like in the future, I'm trying to get an MBA in order to focus on, building up a small business outside of, work in order to make sure I have another set of income coming in.
Got it. Sounds good. So I'm going to go here and throw a question out there for you guys about being a young professional and your retirement plans that are offered through your companies. So when it came to your 401k, where did you guys go to like learn about, hey, this is how much I should put in my 401k, or this is how I should manage it? Morgan, I'm going to start with you because you've had experience with a financial advisor. So what'd you do in regards to your 401k or any retirement programs that Accenture offers?
Yeah. So, well, first I will also say, even if you're interning, check what you get with interning. Because when I interned at Boeing, I got access to the 401k there, and they matched me immediately. So at Boeing, I doubled my money putting it into my 401k. Obviously, I couldn't touch that money once I put it in until whatever age I am, 59 and a half. But it's something that they do, match you on, and then up to a certain percent. But yeah, when it came to my Boeing 401k, I reached out to my financial advisor because I'd never seen a 401k before. I did not know that you were like able to select plans. I just thought you sign up for the 401k and it happens, but you actually have to go in, select, which mix of stocks you want to invest in, which kind of mix you want. And I also read the book, I Will Teach You to Be Rich, which is going to be on the last slide. And that's a really good book. I think if you're just starting your personal finance journey, he explains things so well and just so organized. And it's just a great thing that I reference still. And basically, I just kind of learned like the important thing is that you want to know how much your company matches. You want to know when you start getting that match. So for example, at Accenture, I don't get it until after I've been working there for a year. So, right now, like I still invest in my 401k, but Accenture isn't matching my money yet. And then you kind of have to go in and select your mix of stocks that you want. So when I talked to that financial advisor the first time, she told me that there's typically something that's called like a target date. It'll have like the year or the year closest to what you're going to retire to. I think a lot of companies do this. It happened for me both at Boeing and at Accenture. And it says like target date, 2055. So if that's the year that you're going to retire, you can just select that, and it has someone that actually manages that for you and will adjust the percentage of stocks that you're investing in, and they adjust that as you move on. So if you're older, that tends to be a lot less aggressive than if you're younger. So when you're younger and you choose that, hey, I'm going to retire in like 40 years, they tend to be a little bit more aggressive on how they invest your money. But if you're older, they tend to be, more on the safe side on how they invest your money. So that's kind of something I learned recently. And honestly, when it came to the Accenture one, there was a ton of documentation I could have read, but I was like, I don't know if it's going to be even worth my time to read all this documentation. I know that someone manages this for me, and all I have to do is select to be a part of it, and I'll start investing now rather than putting it off and reading all this documentation. And who knows when I'll get around to actually deciding to invest. So for me, it was just more about simplicity, I guess. But I did have to take those steps to meet with a financial advisor the first time and read I Will Teach You to Be Rich to really understand what was going on there.
Right. And I'm going to just add on there, when companies have that target date, and when you say risk, they're putting it in something that might give you more return today. And the idea is, as you get older, you have less opportunity to make more money because you are getting close to that retirement age. So why would we risk it by putting it in those startups and putting it in things that might lose you money, and you won't be able to plan for your retirement like that?
Exactly. Like if I lose money next year, that's not going to really make a huge impact for me on retirement, right? I have 59 more years to get that back. But if you're 55 and you start losing money, that might be a big deal because you're thinking about retiring and pulling out that money soon.
Exactly. Miguel, Richard, either of you want to throw some information in there?
I know with John Deere, before I got the internship offer, they were talking to me about like 401k, and they told me all the benefits, all the plans, and then how they will match up a couple of things. So definitely, if you're like somebody who's looking to get an internship or a co-op, definitely like bring it up to whoever's your HR advisor and 401k, because different companies, different internships give you different kinds of ideas. I know there's companies that are family owned, because I was part of Kiwit, that was family owned company. So there's different types of companies as well. That's something to look forward to.
Got it. Sounds good. I'm going to go ahead and jump to the next question. It's a little long, but it's any suggestions on how to build a network of individuals that are also working towards the same goals, or can you give me some guidance? And then it says, there's a little comment on there. It says, as a first generation student, I didn't know about the concepts generational wealth till late college. So similar to a lot of us, Jacqueline doesn't have a lot of experience, or these conversations aren't happening at the household, and that's why it's important to be having these topics. So how are you guys meeting other people and chatting with them on this, or are you even doing it? Like, are you just doing the research on your own and just saying, hey, this is my money and this is my strategy and I'm not going to talk to anybody about it? I'm going to let any of you jump in.
So I'm just gonna hop on that one, I guess. So similarly, my parents don't really talk about a lot of investing, and most of the conversations that go around in my world revolve around my friends. I tend to have friends that are actually interested in making investments, whether it's buying property or investing into the stock market. So I have conversations through them, but I've also joined several pages on Facebook with people talking about potential investments or what they're investing in and why, as well as I subscribed to The Fool, which is an investing website where they give you recommendations in stocks that you should invest in and which ones would potentially go up in the next few years. You do have to pay for that. I'm honestly only a part of it because my credit card waived the initial fee, and I'm kind of like testing it out and seeing how I feel about it. But there's a ton of different avenues that you can take. Typically, young professionals around your age, or even if you're still in school, students that are about to graduate, normally they're in some type of investment, specifically because of all this cryptocurrency stuff. People have started paying more attention to the stock market and everything that's going on around them.
I would say the same.
Sorry, I was on mute.
I was
going to say, Morgan, Miguel, so how do you guys build either your group to chat with, or what's your strategy around talking to people, or at least as a sounding board, right?
I would say for me, honestly, most of my friends that I talk about personal finance with are my, SHPE Familia that I met back in USF. And I think, I'm close friends with Richard, I'm close friends with William, Eileen as well, who, was in the Money Talk 101. And all of them I reach out to. Like, if I have a question, I ask them a lot, like, hey, what are your thoughts on this? What do you think? And a lot of times they have different opinions, but I think they're all good opinions and they all have a valid, justification for it. But yeah, I would say honestly, that's where my network came from, which if you're on this call, you're probably in the right place to start. And I would say connect with us as well. And I would say connect with all of us on this call as well. We're going to put our LinkedIn page at the end and you could ask us more questions if you're interested. But yeah, for me, it just came up kind of naturally. I think my friends were very, passionate about personal finance as well. But if that's not your friend group, I would say be the conversation starter. Talk to your friends, tell them that you want to work on your personal finance. And I'm sure I think that's something that everybody wants to be financially stable. So I think it'll be something that other people will want to do as well. And you could even start a book club and you start reading about personal finance books. Just be the person that brings that to the table.
I like it. Miguel, do you have anything to add to that, or do you agree with them? Do you disagree with them? You don't like talking about money?
I'm taking notes right now, but one thing I do have for sure is a group chat on Twitter. So it's really rare for me to have a group chat on Twitter, but the group chat I have on Twitter, we're talking about, you know, investing in money, Robinhood, and so on. So that I already have something in the works. I'm not investing money yet, but it's something that it's good to start, you know, learning already.
So quick question on that. Are these people that you know, or are these people that you've met on the internet on Twitter, right? So like, is it other people who, you know, you're just chatting about, hey, what's the next Deutsch?
So some of them are a couple of friends that I know, and then he was like, hey, I'm part of a group chat if you want to join. We talk about investing money and everything, so I just joined it. So a friend of mine got me in, and I, you know, met new friends.
So what I'm thinking there is that you guys were probably already chatting about finances, and he was like, hey, Miguel wants to know more. Here's your group. Join. So it sounds like, hey, put it out there, put it out into the universe that you want to, you know, be financially stable and you want to figure this out. So it'll come to you. Okay. We got a little bit of time left. I'm going to do one more question. And then we're going to go ahead and wrap up. Sorry, I have a bunch of questions here. Let me see. Okay, this is a good one. It's super basic, but I always find value in this question. What advice that you would give to yourself 1 year ago, and let's also do 5 years ago. So, you know, for both of you, Morgan and Richard, you guys weren't working 1 year ago. Miguel, you're back in school. And then what would you give yourself 5 years ago? Richard, you want to start?
Okay, 1 year ago and 5 years ago. If it was 1 year ago, I probably would have told myself to ease up in investing a little bit, because specifically everything that's gone on, and the fact that, unlike Morgan, I don't really have a rainy day fund. If something goes wrong, or there's a tragedy that happens, I'm just gonna put it on my credit card. So I would probably tell myself, like, hey, like, you should start putting some money away just in case. 5 years ago, I would have been like freshman year of college. So in that aspect, I would have told myself, like, hey, like, stop spending money in ways that you really shouldn't be spending money, like going out to eat all the time, try going to pay to go to a concert or get into an 18 plus club, and saving money that way. There's countless times where I paid like $25 in cover. Like, I should not have been paying $25 in cover. And honestly, just starting to read up on books. Like, I just recently subscribed to The Fool and subscribed to Morning Brew, when I could have been doing that so much earlier on in my journey.
I love the honesty. Hey, Morgan, you want to go next?
Sure. I think honestly, my advice would be the same for both. I think it's like, I would just tell myself it's never about how much you make, it's always about how much you save. Even if, you know, you save 10%, 5%, it's something. And I think I kind of 5 years ago, I would have been in the cycle of like, okay, but when I get my first internship, I'm going to save so much more. Or when I start my full-time job, I'll save so much more. Or just kind of in the mindset of later is always, it's always going to happen later. Like, it's not a problem now, down the road, I'll take care of it, which is just a mindset you'll always be caught in. So I think I would have told myself, like, it's not about how much money you're making. It's about having self-discipline and saying, I'm going to save this, and then this is my budget for what I can spend on, and then enjoying that money that you are spending. Because I think a lot of people do get overly, worried about budgeting as well, and they don't enjoy themselves. Like, I know Richard, William, we all like to vacation here. So for me, I like to vacation. I have money that I set aside to vacation, and I spend that money happily, and I'm happy to go on that vacation. But yeah, I would say probably first and foremost is just, there's no better time to start than now. That would be my advice if I could go back and tell myself 5 years ago. And I guess a year ago, the same thing, because that would have helped me a year ago when my start date got pushed back. That would have just helped me having a little bit more savings. So yeah.
That just made me think of Benjamin Franklin's quote of "A penny saved is a penny earned." I'm over here like, wow. All right, let's save all them pennies. Hey, Miguel,
Well,
what do
you
you?
can quote me from now on instead of.
Benjamin Franklin.
Yes, you can
Understood.
just say Morgan Chesnicka said it.
Miguel, what advice would you give yourself a year ago and 5 years ago?
So a year ago, it would have been more of like start saving money now, especially because it's like, okay, so it was like I didn't make a decision yet until like it was like the end of the summer that I was gonna go back to school. So if I would have started saving money more for like college, maybe I would have had that already set up since the beginning of the summer. But more of like just knowing your priorities, right? So that was one of the key things, knowing what to prioritize on top. 5 years ago, well, I just joined SHPE. That was the first year I joined SHPE back in 2016. So that was one of the best decisions, that's for sure. But financially stuff is knowing to apply for scholarships. If that would have been one of the key things to do was apply for scholarships, then I don't have to worry about taking out more loans. So that was one of the key things. So if you have time right now to apply for scholarships as an undergrad, or you're doing grad school right now and you still have one more year, apply for scholarships. Try to make sure you can get, that money that you can get, that's a grant or so. So definitely scholarships. And another thing is learning how to manage money on being on an intern. Because my first internship with Harris County, I didn't know how to manage money. So there's a lot of money lost. But I learned from those mistakes that I hope that I saved up back when I was an intern with Kiewit. So just learning how to, save up money as an intern or in a co-op.
Understood. Thank you. Quick question. Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah,
Yes.
I can see it.
PowerPoint slide? Okay, so I'm going to give each of you just the option right now of what's the one key thing that you would like people to take away from this, just one thing. Morgan, you can go first.
I had a feeling you were going to call me to go first, and I was still thinking of mine. But I would say kind of the same thing, what I would tell myself 5 years ago, like just start and do something, even if it's just you don't know where you're going to invest your money yet, just go ahead and start putting it aside and just know once I get knowledgeable and I know I'm comfortable with this decision, then I'll start and I'll go ahead and invest it. But you already have the money there. So just go ahead and, make yourself a budget and start today. Start now. Don't push it off any longer.
At the minimum, plan for the future.
Yeah.
Richard?
I'd just go back on, honestly, like when you're making the decision of making a purchase, like really think about it and say like, hey, I really need this? Like I have like 8 pairs of jeans. Do I need a 9th pair? And just like simple things like that, because like realistically, like we all make just like purchases on a whim. Sometimes you're like, oh, it's only $5. But those $5 start to add up really quick. And if you really go back in your bank statement, you're like, wow, I bought like $100 or 100 items worth of $5 that I thought it was just like, oh, it's so small, but right there it's like $500 that you could have saved or invested into something.
I call that either the Starbucks effect or the Amazon Prime effect. Both are effective at spending $5 in small increments. Miguel, what about you?
I guess it's knowing the basics. Just like, knowing what you really need, like what resources you need in order to be successful, and based on your short-term and long-term goals that you already like established, and then making sure that other things that you don't need. So like, if you know you can't eat, big platter of food, then go for the short one, right? Save money there, right? So just learning to know the basics on what resources you need and what you can, consume, and what you really need compared to what is, something for fun.
Necessities versus the wants. Absolutely. All right, thank you guys. And I'm gonna go ahead and move to the next slide. You guys see the final slide? Oop.
William, before you move on, I want to expand on that comment about the scholarships. So last year, SHPE provided over $1 million in scholarships. Very exciting. Thanks to our industry partners, and a portion of that is for graduate students. So if you're thinking about going back to school, by all means, apply for the scholarship. The window is February 1 to April 30th. So think about that for next year. And we also have 4 webinars that are part of this show on the SHPE national YouTube page. So back
I'll also
to
say,
you, William.
Dora, to add on to that, even if you're a professional, you could actually apply for the scholarship as a professional, because I actually was awarded the scholarship last year when I went back to school, even though I was still working. So that was cool that SHPE was able to provide that. So undergraduates, graduates, and professionals can apply. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and jump over to the last slide. So on the slide here, we have all of our presenters, our panelists. If you guys want to jump on LinkedIn and add them, you can go ahead and use that QR code there to add them. And just to kind of wrap up, we have some of the things that they recommend and things that they have read. And if you've been to the Money Talk series before, some of these overlap just because these are just good topics or good ways to start investing. So absolutely go ahead. And someone had mentioned in one of the questions, actually, Dave Ramsey. So if you have not heard of Dave Ramsey, he's like a money investment, get your life together guru when it comes to finances. And he actually makes YouTube videos that are like 3 to 5 minutes. And he'll talk about a specific topic like, hey, should I buy this new car or buy the house? Should I go back to school or buy the house? Should I rent or buy the house? Or a lot of it has to do with owning homes and mortgages, just because that makes such a big portion of the US population that are either trying to make that decision of where do I go. But absolutely, Dave Ramsey is a great resource, and I'm a big fan of him. Morgan, Miguel, Richard, do you guys have any last minute things you want to add here on this slide?
No, I would just say that I Will Teach You to Be Rich is the book that I first read, and that was like so helpful, and it's actually kind of funny too. The author is very funny. So I really enjoyed that. I would definitely recommend that book. It's like everything is explained so well and like just put at to a level that I could understand, and I really enjoyed that book.
Perfect. Miguel, Richard, anything? Or if you're good, you're good. No big deal.
I think I'm good.
Miguel?
Same here.
All right, awesome. I wish we had like the audience could give you a round of applause. So I'm going to give you a round of applause and say thank you for participating. I don't know if you can hear that.
Yes, thank you, William.
You're welcome. You're absolutely welcome. So thank you guys for joining. Thank you to all the SHPE Familia who came on to listen to the panelists. Thank you for the questions. Again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to any of our panelists. And I will tell you that I've been reached out to before on LinkedIn, and I've actually jumped on the phone with some of the people who come onto these workshops and chatted. So even though we're in this virtual setting, we are happy to help and happy to chat. We'll just figure out a time on the calendar and make it work to have those conversations.
Absolutely.
All right, Dora, do we need to do anything, or are you handling the magic?
I've got it from here. Thank you. So we appreciate you guys for sharing such valuable knowledge with us. Next month, we are bringing you your future in cybersecurity, which is a 2-part webinar series about career journeys and career pathways in cybersecurity. You can listen to the panelists as they explore different areas of cybersecurity, including investigation, security software development, and operations. And if you're considering a job in cybersecurity, come learn about the abundant opportunities. So SHPE Familia, please remember to take our survey. You're going to receive a thank you email with a survey link after this webinar. And the last reminder is that this recording, along with all of the others from the latinXfactor show, are found on the SHPE National YouTube page. So signing off from SHPE National, buenas noches, stay safe, stay well.
Thank you, Dora.
Thank you.